My name is Nora West. I used to be the most expensive divorce lawyer in Manhattan. I helped over 100 women walk away from bad marriages with what they deserved. Houses, stocks, custody, settlements. I stood up for them in court and watched their ex-husbands sign the papers with faces like thunder. I've seen too many men crumbled when the truth comes out, and too many women still in tears even after they win. I thought I had men all figured out. I thought no one would ever move me again. Then I met Richard Gray. He was a tech mogul with 3 publicly traded companies and a smile like a golden age Hollywood leading man. When he was chasing me, he sent a different bouquet every day, and the flower meaning spelled out, "You are the smartest woman I've ever met." I bought it, not because he was rich, because he really made me feel seen, not as a woman, but as an adversary, a partner, someone worth respecting. I still remember the night Richard first took me out to dinner, an Italian place in downtown Manhattan, flickering candles, a violinist playing by the table. He ordered a 1982 Barolo. When the bottle opened, the smell of the cork mixed with his cologne, and for a second, I felt dizzy.
You've helped so many women get divorced. Do you believe in marriage yourself?
Yes, I just don't believe in forever.
He laughed, a deep laugh, with little lines at the corners of his eyes. I bet my professional reputation, my savings, 3 years of my youth, and the last of my faith in human nature. We were married for 3 years. In those 3 years, I handled 2 commercial lawsuits for him, revised 3 prenobs, and sorted out the post-divorce asset disputes with his first wife. I took all the bullets for him. He opened a door for me, into his world. I thought we were partners. But partners don't suddenly tell you, after 3 years,
Nora, I want a divorce.
Nora, I want a divorce. I've fallen for someone else. That someone was his personal assistant, 23 years old, fresh out of college. Her name was Emily. She looked like a Nordic model. Her resume had no standout qualities, and her only listed skill was good listener. I don't know how many of Richard's secrets she listened to, but I know she listened her way right into my husband's heart. He handed me a divorce settlement, pretty generous on the surface, with one catch: give up all rights to any financial info about his companies. I didn't sign. I'm not a woman you can buy off with generous. I'm a lawyer. I know the cost of a single signature. I started digging into his books, not as his wife, as a professional lawyer, but what I found was a perfect wall of finances. No cracks anywhere. And no cracks? That's the biggest crack of all. I've thought back to that night many times since, not out of nostalgia, because I wanted to figure out exactly when I got fooled. Was it the wine, the flowers, or that line about being the smartest woman he'd ever met? None of those. I was fooled by the feeling of being truly seen. A woman who's never needed protection, she's the most vulnerable to 3 words. I get you. The divorce battle lasted 8 months. I hired the best forensic account, but Richard's books were just too clean. So clean they looked like a textbook. Every number had a source. Every transaction had a contract. The accountants told me,
Nora, either he's innocent or he's a genius.
He's not a genius. He just has one working for him. Because Richard couldn't even figure out his own taxes. No way he cooked those books himself. The guy couldn't remember his own home Wi-Fi password. How could he design a cross-border asset transfer structure? He wasn't the genius. He was the front. In the end, I signed the agreement. Not because I wanted to, because I couldn't afford to keep fighting. 8 months of legal fees ate up more than half my savings, and Richard's legal team could drag this out forever. The day I signed, he sat across the table, as calm as if he were ordering takeout.
Nora, you're a good lawyer, just not a good wife.
I stood up, grabbed my bag, and walked out. As the elevator doors closed, I looked at myself in the mirror and said, "You're going to regret this, Richard. Not because you lost me, because you turned me into your enemy." Not long after the divorce, I got a call. It was a woman, her voice low.
Are you Nora West?
Yes.
I was married to Richard Gray, too. I'm his first wife.
Her name was Lena. She was a cybersecurity expert from Silicon Valley, used to teach information security at Stanford. She was married to Richard for 5 years and walked away with less than a tenth of what she should have gotten. Not because she had a bad lawyer, because Richard had dirt on her. Forged emails that would make her look dishonest in court. She chose to stay quiet and signed. Lena asked to meet at a coffee shop in Brooklyn. She was younger than I'd pictured. Early 40s, thin, with sharp, bright eyes. She wore a navy blue trench coat and carried an old backpack, looking like a grad student who just got out of class. She said it took her 2 years to figure out how Richard had doctored those emails.
He hired a hacker team. Not some random guys off the street, an organized team with a budget and a legal advisor. They didn't just forge my emails, they hacked my computer and got all my clients' confidential info. He used it to threaten me. If I kept fighting in court, he'd leak everything.
I held my coffee cup. My hand didn't shake, but inside I was churning. This was the same man who sent me flowers and said, "You're the smartest woman I've ever met." So what did you do? I asked. I learned a skill. What skill? Reverse tracking.
I spent 3 years learning how to trace that hacker team's footprints. I found their servers and copied some of the data. Not all of it, but enough to prove he forged emails and hacked into people's computers. She pulled a hard drive out of an old backpack and set it on the table. The drive was black, with worn edges, like it had been taken in and out of bags 1,000 times. This has the case data for his first wife, second wife, and you, the third. Took me over a year to organize. I want a lawyer to look at it and tell me if it's enough to put him away.
It wasn't the fire of revenge. It was professional calm. She was like an engineer who'd taken apart a machine and laid out every piece on the table. Give me 3 days. Lena's apartment was in an old Brooklyn neighborhood with crooked street trees and cracked sidewalks. The first time I went to her place, I saw that her living room had a whole wall of whiteboards covered in network topologies, timelines, arrows, and notes. The red lines crossed like blood vessels, and in the center was the same name, Richard Gray. On her fridge was a photo from her wedding day with Richard. She was in a white gown, smiling like a student who'd just gotten an acceptance letter. The photo had faded a little, its corners curling up, held in place by a magnet. The magnet was a cartoon cat with big eyes and a goofy grin, totally carefree. Why do you still have that photo? I don't keep it to look at it. I keep it to remember. Remember what? That I used to smile. And that he stole that smile. She didn't tear it up or burn it. She said she didn't want Richard to occupy even a single one of her actions, because even tearing up a photos is a kind of response. She wanted him to become completely irrelevant. I spent the next 3 days going through every file on Lena's hard drive, not skimming, line by line, word by word. Richard's hacker team had broken into my personal email, my work computer, even the GPS on my phone. They knew everywhere I'd been, everyone I'd met with, everything I was going to say in court. No wonder every negotiation felt like Richard already knew my hand. He wasn't smart. He was cheating. On the third night, I called Lena.
Does what you saw put him in prison?
Enough to buy him a very good legal team.
So can he be convicted or not?
Yes, but we need more evidence, especially on the financial side. Those perfect books of his, someone's behind them. We need to find that person. I have a suspect. In the divorce case of his third wife, the one after you, a forensic accountant's name came up, Maya Cohen. She was my student at Stanford. Later, she joined an accounting firm that handles high net wealth clients. Richard was one of her clients. You think she knows what's going on?
She knows. But she won't talk.
She signed an NDA.
Unless Richard screwed her over too.
I found Maya Cohen. Not by phone, I went straight to her firm. It was a fancy midtown office tower, with a giant brass logo at reception and expensive fragrance in the air. The receptionist said Ms. Cohen wasn't in that day.
Mrs. Cohen's is not in the office today. She's in court.
I left a note. I'm Richard Gray's third ex-wife. You and I are the same person. Coffee's on me. That night, Maya called. Her voice was low, just like Lena's the first time she called me.
Where are you?
Brooklyn.
Tomorrow, 3 p.m., same coffee shop.
The next day, Maya sat across from me. She was 38, short hair, no makeup, wearing a gray cashmere sweater. Her fingers were long, her nails cut short, an accountant's hands. She drank her coffee black, no sugar, very slowly.
What do you want from me?
Do you know how Richard Gray's books are put together? I know you signed an NDA, but I'm not asking for his client data. I just need you to tell me one thing. Did you help him cook those books willingly? Maya lowered her head. Her fingers tapped lightly on her coffee cup in a steady rhythm. The coffee shop was loud, but I heard that tapping clearly. No. First he fooled me as a person, then he used my expertise. I knew him before you did. He asked me to do some financial planning, said it was for a new company's structure. I did it. Then I realized those structures were for hiding assets, shifting profits, evading taxes. I wanted out, but he had something on...
What?
Photos of me sleeping in his bed. He took them without my knowledge. I don't even know when he installed the camera. He said if I tried to leave, he'd send those photos to all my clients, everyone in my field. My career would be over. Her voice didn't tremble, but her eyes were red. She didn't cry, which was somehow more heartbreaking than tears. 3 days after our first meeting, Maya sent me a long voice message. She rarely sent voice messages. She was the kind of person who barely even used emojis. Her voice in the message was flat, like she was reading a report. She said she'd had a dream the night before. She was sitting in a huge courtroom, and the judge asked her, "Why did you help him cook those books?"
Why in the dream she helped him cook
Mouth.
those books?
But no sound came out. Then she woke up, and her pillow was wet. In the dream, she opened her mouth, but no sound came out. Then she woke up, and her pillow was wet.
I wasn't crying.
She said in the voice message.
I don't know if that was tears.
I texted back, "That was your body crying for you." She didn't reply. But the next day, she showed up at the coffee shop 20 minutes early. She brought a black folder with a timeline she'd put together, from the day she met Richard to the day she finished his last structure. 7 full years. On the last page, she'd written in red pen, 7 years. I helped him hide at least $200 million. I don't know how much I owe the world, but I want to pay it back.
You don't owe the world. You owe yourself a fresh start.
She nodded and didn't speak. That afternoon, we sat in a cafe, sunlight streaming in through the floor-to-ceiling windows and falling on the back of her hand. She turned her hand over, looked at her palm, like she was seeing a long road ahead. For the longest time, I couldn't sleep at night. I helped him build the financial structures for over a dozen companies, every single one in the gray area of the law. Not because he paid me well, because I was scared. But now I'm even more scared that when the prosecutors finally come for him, I'll go down with him. You're not the first person he's controlled this way, and we're not the last. Lena Chen, his first wife, he used hackers to threaten her. Me, his third wife, he knew every card I was holding in court. You don't have to carry this alone. Maya's tears started to fall. She didn't make a sound, just tears falling one by one into her black coffee. She cried for a long time. I sat next to her in silence. The waiter came by to ask if we wanted more water. I shook my head. This has evidence of his hacker team breaking into our computers. If you can give us the real story behind his finances together, it'll be enough to bury him. Not just prison. His companies will be investigated, his partners will pull out, his bank accounts will be frozen. He'll lose way more than you ever did.
I need some time, but take your hurry, because I know he's getting married again.
Life number 4. I saw it on social media. Richard Gray engaged to influencer Sophia Ross. Wedding set for 3 months from now at his beachfront Hamptons mansion. Sophia was 23, 5 million followers, looked like a magazine cover girl. Her social media was all diamonds, yachts, private jets. She'd captioned it, "Found my forever love." I stared at that line and almost laughed out loud. Forever love. For Richard, forever meant 3 to 5 years, until he found the next one. Did you see it?
Yeah.
Sophia Ross. I looked into her. She's not your average influencer. She's got a law degree, master's from NYU.
Didn't practice, became a fashion blogger instead.
Her parents are both doctors.
She's not hurting for money.
Then why would she marry Richard? Because she doesn't know who he really is. All she sees is a rich, charming, successful guy who sends flowers.
She doesn't see the
4 ex-wives and the trail of ruined people. Then we'll show her.
How?
Send her a premarital due diligence report. Not something we wrote, the evidence. Everything all of us have, package it and sell it to her. Sell it? She won't trust it if it's free. If she pays for it, she'll take it seriously.
Plus, we need the money. We need to start a company.
What kind of company? Marriage risk advisory firm. We do background checks for women about to marry into wealth.
We started a company soon after. We called it the Trinity.
3 women, 3 specialties. Me on legal, Lena on psychotherapy, Maya on finance. We don't take divorce cases, only pre-wedding investigations. We had only one potential client so far, Sophia Ross, but we knew that if she bought our report, she'd be our first and last client. Because once that report was out, Richard was done. Maya spent 2 weeks sifting through the data she had, pulling out what could be shared legally. Nothing that violated other clients' privacy. Just Richard's personal asset transfers, tax avoidance, and the methods he used to threaten his ex-wives. Lena organized the hacker team's invasion logs into a timeline, every entry with IP addresses, timestamps, and actions taken. I packaged everything into a report as rigorous as any legal brief I'd ever written. Cover page, table of contents, summary of evidence, expert notes, legal recommendations. The day we finished the report, the 3 of us sat in Lena's apartment staring at that 300-page PDF. Lena's apartment was small, the living room crammed with books and tech gear, network diagrams taped to the walls. Outside was the Brooklyn night skyline, with distant sirens.
What if he denies it? He'll deny it, but he doesn't need to admit anything. This report isn't for him, it's for Sophia. If she believes it, that's enough.
Lena copied the files onto an encrypted USB drive and made 2 backups, she said.
No one can delete all of us.
Sophia sat cross-legged on the couch in sweatpants and a hoodie, a pen in her hand, scribbling in a notebook. She had no makeup on, no filters. She looked like any ordinary 27-year-old woman, but every word out of her mouth was like a knife. Her words were sharp, cutting deep into the hearts of those who heard them. I've done the math. If I cancel the wedding now, he'll just lose the cost of a party. He'll go find the next one. But if we go through with the plan, I can take half his net worth. And that prenup will become his cage. Are you sure you can handle it? A year, 365 days, smiling every day at someone you hate? Sophia stopped writing and looked up. My mom married my stepfather when I was 12. That man hid her for 10 years. Every day she smiled while cooking, smiled picking me up from school, smiled saying hi to the neighbors. I asked her why she didn't leave. I'm saving up. She saved for 10 years, and when she had enough, she left. My mom took 10 years. I only need 1. I'm stronger than her.
The room was quiet for a few seconds. Maya was the first to speak.
What do you need us to do?
I need you to be my backup. Not to fight my battles for me. Just to make sure I don't die when I get hurt. We talked until 2 in the morning. When we left, Sophia hugged each of us at the door. She whispered something in my ear, so quiet it felt like it was only for me.
Nora, I'm not afraid of him. I'm afraid of becoming him. We didn't send Sophia Ross the report by email. Too easy to intercept. Lena found the private email of Sophia's personal assistant and sent a very short message from a dummy account.
Miss Ross, we have a premarital due diligence report on your fiancé, Mr. Richard Gray. Price $500,000. If interested, contact this number.
A couple of days later, the phone rang. It was Sophia herself. Her voice was more mature than I expected, not someone who takes photos and shows off handbags.
Who are you?
We're his ex-wives, all 3 of us.
What do you want?
To sell you a report. Read it, then decide if you still want to marry him.
There was a long silence on the other end.
500,000?
500,000. The price of one of your bags, for the truth. You tell me if that's worth it.
She went quiet again. After about 10 seconds, she said,
How do we do this?
I set up a meeting at a private club in Manhattan. No phones, no recorders, just a printed outline of the report. The day we met, Sophia dressed low-key. Black hoodie, baseball cap, no makeup. She looked younger than her photos, but there was a calm in her eyes that didn't match her age. No small talk. She sat down, picked up the outline, and started reading. She flipped through it page by page like she was reviewing for an exam. I couldn't see her expression, but her fingers didn't shake. She looked through the outline for a long time, then closed the folder. I want the full report. When can I see it?
Within an hour after payment.
I want to see one page first.
I flipped at page 12 and handed it to her. The record of Richard's hacker team breaking into my computer. When she saw her own name on the surveillance list, her face changed. She didn't speak, read that page twice, and set it down.
500,000. I'll transfer it now. On the evening Sophia finished reading the report, we sat for a long time in a private room at the club. She went through it page by page, occasionally pausing to zoom in on a specific page, and occasionally frowning. Lena and I waited quietly across from her, not rushing. She read for almost an hour. Finally, she put down the documents.
Thank you.
What are you going to do?
The wedding isn't canceled. I'll go through with it. But I need your help. Help me turn all of this into leverage for the prenup negotiations. I want him to sign something he'll never dare to break.
The 3 of us exchanged a look.
You're trained as a lawyer. You should know how to negotiate.
Sophia smiled.
I do, but I need evidence. The report you gave me? That's the evidence. Now I'm the judge.
The prenup Sophia drafted was not ordinary. A typical prenup protects the rich person's assets. Hers protected herself, and every woman who might become Richard's next wife.
The terms. First, Richard must disclose the source and destination of all hidden assets, with no concealment or transfer of any kind. Second, if the marriage ends due to Richard's infidelity or illegal conduct, he must pay 60% of his net worth as compensation. Half of that goes to a special fund for victims of financial abuse in domestic situations. Third, if Richard uses hacking to surveil his wife or ex-wives, he automatically forfeits all claims to assets and faces criminal liability. When Richard saw the draft, he reportedly laughed.
You think I'll sign this?
If you don't sign, I'll send that report to every investor, every partner, every media outlet you know. Your choice. Sign the prenup, you still have a marriage. Don't sign, you have nothing.
Richard signed. His lawyers argued with him for a long time. Finally, he said,
She's tougher than the other three combined.
The wedding went ahead as planned. The Hamptons beach house, white rose arches, 200 guests, a 5-tier champagne tower. Sophia walked down the aisle in a custom wedding dress on Richard's arm. As they exchanged rings, she smiled into his eyes. I had the best forensic accountant, but Richard's book, no one knew that behind her smile was that 300-page report, or that the pre-up in his pocket was the most expensive contract he'd ever sign.
The waiter handed her a plate of small pastries. She took one and took a bite.
These shrimp rolls are good. Can you be serious for once? We're not here to cry.
After the ceremony, Sophia came over to us. She hugged each of us and whispered in my ear,
The prenup is signed. The money is transferred. Don't forget what you promised me.
She turned and walked to the dance floor. Richard held out his hand and she took it. They spun in the sunlight, looking like the perfect couple. On the wedding day, Sophia's Vera Wang gown had a 3-meter train, and embroidered on the inside of the hem, hidden, known only to her, was her mother's name.
Does she really love him? Maybe she did. Now she loves herself more. Good.
Her mother sat in the front row in a deep purple dress, her eyes red. No one knew that this ordinary-looking older woman had once spent 10 years saving up to escape a violent marriage. And no one knew that her daughter was now walking into another carefully planned marriage, not for love, but for justice. I thought to myself, Sophia, your mother would be proud of you. A few months into the marriage, Sophia made her move. Richard, I was thinking we should review the financials of your companies together. She didn't file for divorce right away. Instead, under the guise of joint marital decision-making, she demanded access to the financial audits of Richard's companies. Richard couldn't refuse, because the prenup had a clause. Both spouses have the right to know each other's core financial status. He signed that himself. What he didn't know was that Sophia gave that right to Maya as her personal financial advisor. Maya spent a considerable amount of time unraveling every hidden asset structure Richard had built over the past decade. Not just understanding it, she copied, archived, and nocratized every layer of evidence. She worked until 2 or 3 in the morning, her eyes bloodshot, but never complained. Richard's forensic accountant noticed something off, but it was too late, because before he spotted the problem, Lena had already mirrored his servers. Not a hack, through a legal system audit permission that so applied for a spouse of a company director. By the time Richard first realized something was wrong, more than half a year had passed.
He discovered that a chunk of money in his Swiss account had been moved to an untraceable account. He asked Sophia about it.
No idea. Maybe a banking glitch?
Her smile was flawless.
On their first anniversary, Sophia filed for divorce. The grounds weren't infidelity or abuse. It was irreconcilable differences, the least countersuitable reason she could find. Richard's lawyers tried to use the prenup against her, but Sophia's lawyer produced an addendum, one Sophia had slipped into the negotiations, which Richard signed without reading carefully. The attachment states, if either spouse engages in any undisclosed material financial activity during the marriage, the other spouse has the right to unilaterally dissolve the marriage and receive corresponding compensation. Richard's undisclosed financial activities were enough to fill a book. Sophia didn't ask for him to go to prison or issue a public apology. She asked for only one thing. Per Article 6 of the prenup, Richard had to pay 60% of his net worth. How much was that? $420 million. Richard's legal team argued at length in court, yet not a single piece of evidence could refute the materials submitted by Sophia's side. Every page of those materials was notarized, every figure had a source, and every link in the chain was as complete as a structure Richard himself had built out of building blocks.
The judge ruled Richard must pay Sophia $420 million in divorce damages. Plus legal fees and court costs. He ended up paying $450 million. On the day of the sentencing, Sophia, dressed in a white suit, sat in the plaintiff's seat. She heard the ruling, didn't smile, didn't cry.
She simply stood up from the audience seats and glanced in my direction. I was sitting in the gallery next to Lena and Maya. The three of us nodded at her at the same time.
As we walked out of the courthouse, there were a lot of reporters outside. Sophia didn't give interviews.
The law isn't for revenge. It's for protection.
That night, the 4 of us ate takeout at Lena's apartment. The pizza got cold, and no one bothered to heat it up. Sophia sat on the couch, kicked off her heels, and said, I'm a little tired. You should be tired. What you did this past year, Most people wouldn't get it done in a lifetime. Nora, do you think he'll try to get back at me? He won't, because he has nothing left to get back with.
Richard gave an interview after the verdict.
I met someone tougher than me.
You mean Sophia Ross?
No. Her team.
He didn't name names, but we knew who he meant. 3 ex-wives, 1 current, no, soon-to-be ex-wife, 4 women, using different professional skills, tore his empire apart. The first thing Sophia did after getting her settlement was wire us $5 million. That's your commission. Without you, I wouldn't have gotten a dime. You don't have to give this much.
So that you can start fresh.
It's not a gift. It's an investment. I want you to turn the Trinity into a real company. Not just for me, for every woman who almost got fooled like I did. The weekend after Sophia got her settlement, the 4 of us went to the Hamptons villa. Not as guests, as future tenants. At that time, the villa wasn't on the market yet, and Richard was still living there, but he'd already received the court's freeze order, and all his bank accounts had been seized. As we drove past the villa, we saw his black Mercedes still in the driveway, but covered in a layer of dust. The fountain in the garden was off, the lawn unkempt. The once glamorous beach house looked like a tide going out. Sophia rolled down the window and looked for a few seconds.
We're not here to look at a house. We're here to buy it. Right. Buy his villa with his own money. That's my favorite kind of joke.
With that money, we did 3 things. First, we leased Richard's favorite beachfront villa, the one in the Hamptons. Not bought, leased. He sold it to pay his debts. The buyer was an asset management firm. We leased it from them. Second, we turned the villa into a women's business incubator. Not a shelter, a real startup space, with offices, conference rooms, a kids' play area, and a counseling room. Third, we used the remaining money as seed capital to officially run the Trinity, a company that provides premarital background checks for women about to get married. During the renovation, we were at the construction site every single day. Sophia supervised the renovation herself, even the placement of electrical outlets. Lena handled the cabling. She said the building's network system was more complicated than Richard's servers. Maya held the budget, and every expenses had to cross her desk. I handled the lease with the landlord, that asset management firm.
The day the contract was signed, I stood in the villa's garden, watching workers lay new sod. The sun was bright, the sea breeze salty.
I remembered the lavish parties Richard used to throw here, crowds of guests, rivers of champagne. Now, this place would grow something new. Converting the beach villa into an incubator took 6 months. I handled the legal structure, Lena handled system security, Maya handled financial planning, Sophia took care of the renovation. She put a ton of money into interior design and said,
This isn't a shelter, it's a battlefield.
She was right. Every corner here should make people feel strength, not pity. On opening day, over 100 women showed up. Founders, investors, journalists, and a few wives of Richard's former partners. They weren't invited, they just came. They drank champagne in the villa's garden and listened to a short speech by Sophia. She said,
Not a feminist. I'm a woman who was lied to, spied on, and tried to be controlled. I'm just fighting back. And this villa, it's the base of that fight.
The applause went on for a long time. I stood in the crowd watching Sophia's back and suddenly remembered my own wedding. The first cohort of resident founders had 8 women. Their projects ranged from eco-friendly products to online education to women's health, each with a full business plan. Our incubator provided free workspace, legal advice, cybersecurity training, and financial planning. No rent, we took their promise instead. When they succeed, they'll come back and help the next woman. That's our rule. Not charity, a chain of help. One of the founders was Emily, who made eco-friendly sanitary products. She was 31, divorced, with a 5-year-old daughter. She walked into the incubator carrying an old backpack, holding her little girl's hand. My ex-husband took my company shares. I fought for a year in court and lost. Now I'm starting over from scratch. I took her to my office and poured her a glass of water. Her daughter sat next to her, drawing a very big flower. I said, You're not starting from scratch. You're just continuing somewhere else. The Trinity's pre-marriage background check business took off unexpectedly. Not because we advertised, because of word of mouth. Our first client came from Sophia, one of her influencer friends about to marry a Middle Eastern billionaire. We did a deep dive and found out the billionaire already had 2 wives back home and was involved in gray market antiquities smuggling. The report's conclusion, not recommended for marriage. The influencer didn't take our advice. She said she loved him. We refunded her fee. Our policy, if the client doesn't take our advice, we don't charge the full amount. Not long after, the influencer called us in tears. The billionaire was arrested. Her accounts were frozen, and her social media was flooded with hate comments. She asked if we could help her. We connected her with a lawyer, handled media coordination, and organized evidence that she hadn't been complicit during the marriage.
If I'd listened to you, none of this would have happened.
You're listening now. That's not too late. She later became a volunteer at our incubator, coming in 2 days a week to help with admin. She said it was the most meaningful work she'd ever done. By the end of the year, we'd done 17 pre-marriage reports. 8 clients called off the wedding, 6 revised their pre-news, and 3 went ahead anyway. But at least they walked into marriage with their eyes open. That's our value. Not making decisions for people, but giving them enough information to make their own. One report stood out to me. The client was a 45-year-old female doctor, about to marry a man 10 years younger. She said they'd been together for 2 years, and he treated her well, but something always felt off. Our investigation found that the man had been married twice before in the States. Both times, he got close when the woman was at her financial peak, then took half her assets in the divorce. His ex-wives never called the police, because he never laid a hand on them. He only went after the books. The day the doctor got the report, she sat in my office for a long time. She didn't cry, just sat very quietly. I almost became the third. She called off the wedding, but didn't give up on love. A year later, she emailed me to say she'd met someone new, and this time she'd done a full background check. No issues this time, she wrote. Thank you for teaching me that trust needs evidence.
Then one day, something unexpected happened. Richard's companies went completely bankrupt. Not because of our report. That was just the spark. The real reason was that the gray industry chain he relied on had been flagged by financial regulators in multiple countries at the same time. The partners who'd helped him launder money and move assets, one by one, they chose to save themselves and threw him under the bus. He was investigated, prosecuted, and banned from leaving the country. His Manhattan condo was seized, his luxury cars auctioned off, his private jet impounded. He went from a billionaire to a middle-aged man drowning in deep. I saw it on the news. Reporters caught him leaving the courthouse, hair completely white, back hunched, wearing an old jacket. No one recognized him. I showed the photo to Lena.
How do you feel? Nothing at all.
That's the truth. Not fake forgiveness. The man who hurt me had been dead in my heart for a long time. Maya called us one night and said she'd received a letter from Richard. It was handwritten, just a few lines. Maya, I'm sorry. Those photos of you are destroyed. I don't know how to make it up to you, but at least I did that one thing. Maya said she burned the letter. Not because he apologized, because I don't need his apology to heal myself anymore.
The 3 of us, we've graduated one by one.
That night, we had a long phone call. We talked about the old days, the nights we were deceived by him, the sleepless nights, the nights we thought we wouldn't make it. Then we laughed. Not a mocking laugh, that's all behind us now laugh. The night Maya burned Richard's letter, she shot a short video and sent it to our 3-way group chat. In the video, she was squatting on her apartment balcony, burning the letter in a metal basin. The flame wasn't big, but it was steady. The paper curled, turned black, turned to ash, and scattered in the night wind. The video was only 12 seconds. The caption was 3 words. It's over. Lena replied with a firework emoji. I replied with a handshake emoji. No extra words. We didn't need them anymore. A 12-second video, 3 words, 2 emojis. That was a full goodbye.
That summer, the incubator's first cohort of founders graduated.
I'm just really grateful for this opportunity. I'm excited to see what we all do next.
Of the 8 founders, 5 got funding, 2 broke even, and 1 chose to shut down her project. They threw a small graduation party in the Villa's garden, and each shared a job she loved.
When I walked through this door a year ago, I had only $8 left in my account. I didn't dare tell my family that I had failed. I didn't dare ask friends for money, and I didn't dare face my investors. The people here didn't ask me why I failed. They asked me what I needed. That was the first time anyone had ever asked me that.
She started crying. Several others cried too. I stood in the corner with my glass, and my own eyes almost welled up, but I held it in. Not because I'm strong, because I couldn't cry in front of them. I'm one of the founders. I needed to be their support, not a crying shoulder.
Sophia came over and stood next to me. You know, this villa used to be Richard's favorite place. He threw parties here, brought women here to spend the night, showed off his wealth. Now sitting here are 8 founders and over 100 women who've been helped. If he saw this, he'd die of rage.
Then let's make sure he doesn't see it. Let him live, but without a single thing that's his. Sophia laughed.
Later, the Trinity expanded to Los Angeles and Chicago. We rented office space in those cities too, not villas too expensive, just regular office buildings. But on the wall of every office, we hung a picture, the Hamptons Villa, not for show, as a reminder, reminding every woman who walks in. You don't need a villa to prove your worth, but you do need a lighthouse to show the way. Lena led the development of a premarital risk self-check system, an online tool where users enter basic info about their fiancé, and the system automatically scans public databases for litigation records, company registrations, negative media coverage, and more. Not a deep investigation, but enough to screen out most people who were obviously problematic. After launch, the system was used tens of thousands of times. We received countless thank you notes. One user wrote, "I checked my fiancé and found out he had 3 companies with revoked licenses and 2 pending lawsuits. I called off the wedding. Thank you for saving me. I'm not a savior. I'm just someone who almost drowned, learned to swim, and then came back to teach others." Sometime later, I got a call. It was Maya.
Nora, I just heard something. Richard died. Heart attack. In his rental apartment. No one found him for days.
I held the phone and was silent for a long time. I see. After I hung up, I sat in my office chair, looking out at the Manhattan skyline. I didn't know what to think. Not sadness, not relief, not pity. It was an emptiness. That night, the 3 of us met at Lena's apartment. No drinks, no tears, just sat together. When he died, there wasn't a single person by his side. None of his ex-wives went to see him. His kids, the 2 he had with his second wife, didn't come to say goodbye. He won every lawsuit, but lost every person. He died in our hearts a long time ago. Today is just getting the death certificate. I nodded. Not long after Richard died, his second wife contacted us. Her name was Catherine. She was the only one of Richard's 4 wives we hadn't talked to. She called Lena and said she wanted to meet. We received her at the Trinity's office. She was a few years older than us, early 50s, with an elegant updo and a Chanel jacket. Catherine said when she left Richard, she took their 2 children. Richard used every trick to fight for custody. In the end, Catherine gave up a huge chunk of assets to secure the kids' freedom. I've never regretted it. My kids, one's a doctor now, the other a lawyer, they're doing great. She looked at us. But I want to help you with something. I have some documents from Richard's early business dealings, correspondence with his partners. Those partners are still in business, still swindling people. If you need them, I'll give them to you. We accepted. Those documents helped us expose 2 more successful entrepreneurs like Richard in the following years. Not in our personal names, we submitted reports as the Trinity to the relevant regulators. Those 2 weren't arrested, but their businesses took a serious hit. We're not cops, we're information providers. Our weapon isn't a gun, it's evidence. 12 women, from different countries, different backgrounds, different industries. The incubator's second cohort moved in. One was a Syrian refugee, learned programming in Germany, wanted to build an app to help refugees find jobs. One was a retired nurse, 60 years old, wanted to start a senior care training program. One was a recently divorced stay-at-home mom, wanted to make organic baby food. Every one of them had a story. I no longer thought of myself as someone who could help them. I just provide a space, some resources, a little direction. They are the protagonists of their own lives. That year, Sophia made the cover of Fortune Frontier. The headline, From Influencer to Investor, How Sophia Ross Changed a Game with One Prenup. In the interview, she mentioned the Trinity, mentioned us by name. Aren't you afraid Richard's family will sue you? His family has their own problems right now. Besides, everything I say I have evidence for. We made the cover. Don't forget, she's on the cover, not us. She's our product. I laughed. Sophia wasn't a product. She was an outsult. She proved one thing. A woman who's been deceived can live a better life than the deceiver. Later, we did something big. We open-sourced the Trinity's business model, not in a commercial sense, but as knowledge sharing. We wrote a manual called The Complete Guide to Premarital Investigations, teaching ordinary people how to check their fiancé's background from legal, cybersecurity, and financial angles. Legal provisions page, cybersecurity screening interface, financial statement analysis form.
Aren't you afraid people will copy your business model?
No. There are too many lying men in this world for us to handle alone. One more person doing this means one more woman protected. Not noble, just math. A deceived woman loses not just money, but time, trust, and health. You can't buy those back with any amount of money. If we can stop just one, that's a win. That manual was downloaded hundreds of thousands of times. We got an email from Kenya, from a female lawyer. She said she'd translated the manual into Swahili and was teaching women in her community how to use it. She said, "You don't know. In many places, women can't even check their husband's marriage certificate. We have to start from the basics." I wrote back, "Do what you can. We'll do what we can." In the first month after the manual was released, we received over 6,000 emails. Most were thank you notes, some were skeptical, and a few were insults, from people who thought we were destroying families. I replied to one of the insulting emails. It was a man, very aggressive, saying we were teaching women to distrust men and destroy the sanctity of marriage. Sir, the sanctity of marriage is not built on information disparatrance. If you find being investigated offensive, you might not be ready for marriage. I screenshot the conversation and sent it to Lena. She said, "You're too nice." I would have said, "A man who's afraid of being checked isn't scared of being wrongly accused, he's scared of being caught." I said, "Next time, you write it." One autumn, the three of us went to the Hamptons beach villa. Sophia had turned part of the villa into a serviced apartment rental for tourists. Days were for sunbathing and swimming by the sea for a few days. Nights were for drinks on the terrace, chatting, and stargazing. One evening, I walked alone to the beach. The tide had gone out, leaving shells scattered on the sand. I squatted down, picked up a perfect conch shell, and put it to my ear. Inside was the sound of the sea. I thought of years ago, standing outside the courthouse with my divorce aggrieved, thinking that was the darkest day of my life. Now I know, it was the first day of the rest of my life. Lena walked over and stood next to me.
What are you thinking? I'm thinking, if we hadn't found each other back then, where would we be? I'd still be a cybersecurity consultant, not sleeping at night, afraid of his hacker team spying on me. Maya would still be cooking those books, waiting every day for the prosecutor to knock on her door. You'd still be a divorce lawyer, winning 100 cases but never healing your own wounds.
I looked at her. So we found each other. That's good. Trinity celebrated its 10th anniversary. In 10 years, we had served over 3,000 clients, issued more than 600 in-depth investigation reports, and helped our clients avoid billions of dollars in potential losses. The incubator had nurtured 48 women-led startups. 26 were still operating, 14 had received follow-on funding, and 8 had turned a profit. These numbers aren't staggering, but behind every number is a woman's name, a face, a story. The 10th anniversary celebration was held at the Hamptons Villa. Attendees included not just clients, founders, and partners, but also the families and children of the women we'd helped. Kids ran through the garden, laughter filling the air. 10 years ago, I stood here in a wedding dress, marrying a liar. Today, I stand here in jeans, hosting a celebration for all of us. Which is better? Today, obviously. I'm an engineer. I'm not great at expressing feelings, but I want to say, these 10 years, I've learned to trust. Not blind trust, evidence-based trust. And I trust every single one of you. I used to think numbers were cold, but 10 years later, I've learned that numbers can be warm when we use them to protect people. 4 of us, 3 ex-wives, and 1 woman who almost became one. We took a liar's villa and turned it into a lighthouse for 1,000 women. That's worth more than any revenge. The morning after the 10th anniversary celebration, I walked alone to the beach. The tide had gone out far, leaving a wide stretch of wet sand. The sun rose above the horizon, painting the whole sky orange and red. I stood there, watching the sunrise, and thought of many things. I remembered that when I was a kid, I wanted to be a lawyer because I wanted to help people. I remembered meeting Richard and thinking I'd found the right one. I remembered signing the divorce papers in court and telling myself, "You'll regret this." I remembered that afternoon in the Brooklyn coffee shop, meeting Lena and Maya. Now, I don't regret anything anymore. Seagulls flew overhead, their cries sharpened long. I turned and walked back to the villa. Lena was already making coffee in the kitchen, Maya was stretching in the yard, and Sophia was still asleep. She's always the last one up. I poured myself a coffee and sat by the window. Outside, the waves hit the rocks, again and again, like a heartbeat. Someone knocked. It was a delivery guy with a big box. The box had no return address, just a line, for the Trinity. We opened the box. Inside were hundreds of letters. Every letter was from a woman thanking us for helping her. Some through our reports that showed her fiancé's true colors, some through the incubator where she found a new career path, some who read our book and found the courage to leave a toxic relationship. Some were on sticky notes, some on fancy stationery, some on paper torn from a notebook. The handwriting was sometimes neat, sometimes messy, sometimes crossed out and corrected. They were all real, like everything we've done. Not perfect, but real. Sophia came downstairs, hair messy, in her pajamas. She saw the box of letters and froze. "What's this?" "Thank you letters from all over the world. Nora, how much do you think we've done in 10 years? We did what we could. The rest, they're doing it themselves." Maya came in from the yard, Lena with her coffee. The 4 of us stood in front of that box of letters, none of us saying a word, not because there was nothing to say, because anything we said would be extra.